From a very young age, John Harris had a knack for seeing the world in colors and shapes. His parents, always supportive, encouraged his budding talent, filling their home with crayons, paints, and sketchbooks. Art was John's escape, a way to make sense of his emotions and the world around him. But life took a tragic turn when he was just 12 years old. One fateful night, a drunk driver veered off the road, and in an instant, John lost both his parents. The days that followed were a blur of grief and confusion. John and his little sister, Emily, were thrust into a new reality, one filled with sorrow and uncertainty. In the midst of this chaos, John found solace in the very thing his parents had nurtured in him, art. He spent hours drawing and painting, pouring his pain and confusion onto the canvas. Emily, too young to fully grasp the enormity of their loss, clung to John, looking up to him as both brother and caretaker. John realized he had to be strong for her, even when he felt like he was falling apart inside. His art became more than an escape. It became a means of survival, a way to hold on to the memory of his parents and make sense of the world without them. As the years went by, John's passion for art grew, but so did his understanding of its power. He saw how his drawings could communicate feelings that words could not, how they could bring comfort and understanding. It was during a high school art class that John first considered the possibility of using his talent to help others. His teacher, recognizing his gift, suggested he look into art therapy, a field where he could combine his love for art with his desire to help people heal. Inspired, John pursued a degree in art therapy, driven by the memory of his parents and the healing power of creativity that had saved him. He vowed to use his skills to help others navigate their own dark times, just as he had. Little did he know, this path would lead him to a place where his compassion and talent would be tested in ways he could never have imagined. In the quiet corners of their home, surrounded by the lingering echoes of laughter and love, John and Emily Harris found themselves in a world reshaped by tragedy. The loss of their parents had left a gaping void, one that neither words nor time could easily fill. John, now the protector and guide for his younger sister, turned to the only thing that had always made sense to him, art. Every evening, after the world had gone to sleep, John would sit at his desk, his hands moving almost of their own accord, sketching, painting, and molding his grief into something tangible. The strokes of his brush and the lines of his pencil were more than mere movements. They were a dialogue with his pain, a silent conversation with the memories of his parents. Each piece of art was a step in his journey of healing, a way to process the emotions that words could not convey. Emily, though still a child, was drawn to her brother's sanctuary of colors and shapes. She would sit beside him, sometimes quietly watching, other times asking to join in. John, ever patient and loving, would hand her a crayon or a paintbrush, encouraging her to express her own feelings. Through this shared activity, they began to bridge the gap left by their parents' absence. For Emily, art became a means of expressing the anxiety and fear that often overwhelmed her. Her drawings, though simple, spoke volumes about her inner world. There were times when her anxiety seemed insurmountable, but with a crayon in hand, she could give shape to her fears, making them a little less daunting. John's gentle guidance and unwavering support helped her find a semblance of peace amidst the chaos. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, their home slowly transformed. What was once a place of sorrow and silence began to fill with the vibrant hues of their creations. The walls, once bare, now displayed their artwork, a testament to their resilience and their journey towards healing. Each piece told a story, not just of loss, but of hope and recovery. Through art, John and Emily found a refuge, a safe space where they could confront their grief and begin to heal. It was a process, often painful and slow, but with each brushstroke and every new creation, they were reminded that they were not alone. They had each other, and through their shared love for art, they discovered a path to move forward, carrying the memories of their parents in every piece they created. Emily Harris, once a bright-eyed girl full of life and curiosity, now found herself ensnared by a shadow that seemed impossible to escape. The tragic accident that took their parents had left her with more than just memories. It had etched deep scars in her young mind. At only 8 years old, Emily's world had been turned upside down, and with it came an overwhelming anxiety that permeated every aspect of her life. John, her older brother and now her guardian, watched helplessly as Emily's vibrant spirit dimmed. Nights were the hardest. Emily would wake up screaming from nightmares, her small body trembling with fear. The anxiety was relentless, manifesting in ways that were hard to predict and even harder to soothe. Simple things like going to school or meeting new people became monumental challenges. Emily would cling to John, her wide eyes pleading for reassurance that he could barely give. Determined to help his sister, John sought every possible solution. Therapy sessions became a regular part of their routine. Though they helped, progress was painstakingly slow. The therapists taught Emily various techniques to manage her anxiety, but the true breakthroughs came during their time spent together with art. John, with his natural inclination towards creativity, introduced Emily to the therapeutic powers of painting and drawing. Emily would often retreat to her room, where a small desk was covered in art supplies. Here, she found a semblance of peace. Her drawings were raw and honest depictions of her inner turmoil, dark swirls representing the nightmares, jagged lines symbolizing her anxiety. But amidst the chaos, there were glimpses of hope, bright colors and gentle shapes that spoke of her desire for normalcy and happiness. John encouraged her to express everything through her art, and Emily slowly began to open up. It was as if the paper was a safe space where she could unload the weight of her fears. Together, they would sit for hours, their silent companionship speaking volumes. John would draw alongside her, creating serene landscapes and calming images, subtly guiding Emily towards more positive expressions. There were days when Emily's anxiety seemed insurmountable, but these moments with John and their art provided a lifeline. Her drawings started to shift, from chaotic and fearful to more balanced and hopeful. The act of creating became a form of meditation for Emily, a way to channel her anxiety into something manageable and, eventually, beautiful. Through patience and unwavering love, John and Emily navigated the turbulent waters of her anxiety. Art became their shared language, a way to communicate and understand each other's deepest fears and hopes. In the process, they discovered not only a method of coping but a bond that grew stronger with every stroke of the brush and every line drawn. John Harris found his calling within the quiet halls of a psychiatric clinic, a place where the walls held stories of struggle and resilience. As an art therapist, John dedicated himself to helping those who felt trapped by their own minds. Each day, he would step into the clinic, ready to offer a beacon of hope through the transformative power of art. The clinic was a haven for individuals battling various mental health issues, from depression and anxiety to more severe conditions like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. John's role was to create a safe space where patients could explore their emotions and experiences through creative expression. His office was a sanctuary of colors and textures, filled with canvases, clay, and countless art supplies, inviting patients to let their imaginations roam free. John's empathetic nature and personal experiences gave him a unique ability to connect with his patients. He understood the profound impact of trauma and loss, having walked that path himself. This understanding allowed him to approach each session with a genuine sense of compassion and patience. He didn't just see the symptoms of their conditions. He saw the people beneath, each with their own story to tell. One of John's most memorable patients was a young woman named Laura, who struggled with severe depression. When she first arrived, Laura barely spoke, her eyes hollow and devoid of hope. John introduced her to the concept of art therapy gently, encouraging her to pick up a brush and just let her feelings flow. At first, her paintings were dark and chaotic, mirroring the turmoil within her. But over time, with John's gentle guidance, Laura began to find a voice through her art. Her work gradually shifted to brighter colors and more structured forms, reflecting her journey towards healing. Another patient, an elderly man named Mr. Thompson, suffered from debilitating anxiety. He was skeptical of the art therapy at first, reluctant to believe that drawing or painting could ease his racing mind. John patiently worked with him, finding ways to integrate Mr. Thompson's love for nature into his art. They started with simple sketches of trees and birds, eventually moving to more complex landscapes. With each session, Mr. Thompson discovered a sense of calm he hadn't felt in years, finding solace in the act of creation. John's work extended beyond the therapy sessions. He often collaborated with the clinic psychiatrists and psychologists, sharing insights from his sessions that could aid in their patients' overall treatment plans. His holistic approach, combining emotional and creative support, became an integral part of the clinic's healing environment. Despite the emotional toll of his job, John found immense fulfillment in his work. Each breakthrough, no matter how small, was a victory. Every smile, every moment of clarity and connection, reaffirmed his belief in the power of art to heal. His patients taught him as much as he taught them, each interaction deepening his understanding of the human spirit's resilience. In the sanctuary of his office, amidst the swirls of paint and the quiet hum of creativity, John Harris continued to build bridges between broken hearts and hopeful futures. His journey as an art therapist was not just about helping others. It was also a testament to his own healing, a way to honor the memory of his parents by dedicating his life to the service of others. The atmosphere in the clinic shifted the day Sarah Mitchell walked through its doors. Sarah, a talented but troubled visual artist, carried with her a whirlwind of emotions and a past marked by turmoil. Diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, Sarah's life had been a series of intense highs and devastating lows, reflected vividly in her art. John Harris noticed her immediately. She had an aura that was hard to ignore, a mix of defiance and vulnerability. Her eyes, sharp and guarded, seemed to challenge anyone who dared to look too closely. Sarah's reputation had preceded her. The staff had been briefed on her erratic behavior and the complexities of her condition. But John saw more than just a file. He saw a person in pain, someone who desperately needed an outlet for her storm of emotions. Their first session was tense. Sarah entered John's office with an air of skepticism, her arms crossed defensively over her chest. She glanced around the room, taking in the art supplies and the calming ambience, but her eyes were full of mistrust. John welcomed her with a gentle smile, understanding that building trust would take time. "Do you like to draw?" he asked, offering her a sketch pad and a set of pencils. Sarah scoffed. "What difference does it make?" But she took the sketch pad anyway, flipping through the blank pages with a mixture of disdain and curiosity. John didn't push. He knew that forcing her would only create more resistance. Instead, he began to sketch quietly at his own desk, creating a peaceful silence that invited Sarah to join without pressure. After a few minutes, she picked up a pencil and began to draw, her strokes bold and aggressive. Her first drawings were chaotic, filled with dark, jagged lines and unsettling images. They were a raw portrayal of her inner turmoil, an unfiltered glimpse into her mind. John observed without judgment, understanding that this was her way of expressing the pain she struggled to articulate. Over the following weeks, their sessions became a battleground of emotions. Sarah's behavior was unpredictable. She would lash out in anger one moment and retreat into silence the next. But through it all, she kept drawing. Her art was her voice, and John listened carefully. He saw patterns in her work, the recurring themes of abandonment and betrayal, the desperate cries for help masked by defiance. John's approach was always calm and steady. He praised her for her honesty and bravery in her art, gently encouraging her to explore different techniques and mediums. He introduced her to the idea that her art didn't have to be perfect. It just had to be true to her emotions. Slowly, Sarah began to trust him, opening up bit by bit, both through her drawings and her words. One day, she brought in a painting she had worked on at home. It was a stark contrast to her earlier works, filled with vibrant colors and a sense of hope. It depicted a broken heart, but with flowers growing out of the cracks. John looked at it and saw a breakthrough, not just in her art, but in her journey towards healing. "This is beautiful, Sarah," he said softly. "It shows so much strength and resilience." Sarah shrugged, but there was a hint of a smile on her lips. For the first time, John saw a glimmer of pride in her eyes. It was a small step, but a significant one. Through her art, Sarah was beginning to find a way to navigate her emotions, to confront her past without being consumed by it. Their sessions continued, each one a testament to Sarah's evolving journey. John's unwavering support and patient guidance helped her channel her inner chaos into something meaningful. In turn, Sarah's courage and raw honesty inspired John, reaffirming his belief in the power of art therapy. In the presence of Sarah Mitchell, John found not just a challenging patient, but a kindred spirit, a reminder of why he had chosen this path. Together, they were embarking on a journey of healing, one drawing at a time. From the moment Sarah Mitchell entered his life, John Harris knew that helping her would be a daunting task. Her borderline personality disorder brought with it a storm of intense emotions and unpredictable behaviors that tested the limits of his patience and empathy. Each session with Sarah was a roller coaster, filled with high tensions and sudden outbursts. In the beginning, Sarah's defenses were impenetrable. She often arrived at the clinic late, or sometimes not at all, her attitude oscillating between indifference and open hostility. John was no stranger to challenging patients, but Sarah's volatility was on another level. One moment she would be engaged, her eyes alight with interest as they discussed her art, and the next, she would be throwing her sketchpad across the room in frustration. The other staff members at the clinic watched with a mix of concern and admiration. John's calm demeanor in the face of Sarah's tempestuousness was remarkable, but even he had moments of doubt. There were days when he wondered if he was truly making a difference or if he was just another figure in a long line of people who had failed to reach her. One particularly difficult day, Sarah arrived at the clinic visibly agitated. Her hands trembled as she gripped her sketchpad, her eyes darting around the room as if seeking an escape. John greeted her with his usual warmth, but before he could say anything, she exploded. "Why do you even bother?" she shouted, her voice cracking with emotion. "You don't understand me. No one does." John took a deep breath, his mind racing for the right words. "Sarah, I can't pretend to know exactly what you're going through, but I'm here to help. I believe in you." His calm, steady response only seemed to fuel her anger. She knocked over a cup of brushes, the clattering sound echoing in the quiet room. John didn't flinch. Instead, he quietly picked up the scattered brushes, offering her a seat. "Let's try to put these feelings into your art," he suggested, his voice gentle but firm. Sarah hesitated, the fight slowly draining out of her. She sat down heavily, her shoulders slumped. John handed her a piece of charcoal, and she began to draw, her strokes aggressive and desperate. He watched as the chaos of her mind spilled onto the paper, a whirlwind of dark lines and harsh angles. As the session progressed, John gently guided her, encouraging her to focus on the emotions behind the anger. Gradually, her drawing transformed, becoming less about the outburst and more about the pain underneath it. By the end of the session, Sarah's breathing had steadied, her hands no longer shaking. It wasn't always like this. There were days when Sarah would arrive with a tentative smile, showing John a new piece she had worked on at home. These moments of calm and connection were the glimpses of progress that kept John going. He saw the potential in her, the deep well of creativity and emotion that could be harnessed for healing. Their journey was far from smooth. Each breakthrough was hard-won, often preceded by setbacks and conflicts. But with each session, John and Sarah built a fragile trust. He learned to navigate her triggers, understanding when to push and when to give her space. Sarah, in turn, began to see John not as an enemy, but as an ally in her struggle. The clinic's walls, once filled with tension, began to echo with the sounds of Sarah's healing. Her art, initially chaotic and dark, started to show glimpses of light and hope. It was a slow transformation, marked by countless challenges and conflicts, but it was a journey worth taking. Through it all, John remained steadfast, his belief in Sarah unwavering. He knew that the path to healing was fraught with difficulties, but he also knew that within those struggles lay the seeds of growth and recovery. Together, they faced the storms, emerging each time a little stronger, a little closer to finding peace. Sarah Mitchell's art was unlike anything John Harris had ever seen. It was raw, visceral, and teeming with emotion. From the moment she picked up a brush, Sarah's talent was undeniable, but her work was a tumultuous reflection of her inner struggles. Each piece she created was a window into her soul, revealing the pain and confusion that words could not adequately express. Her early works at the clinic were dark and chaotic, filled with jagged lines and violent splashes of color. These were not just drawings. They were outpourings of a mind in turmoil. One of her first pieces was a haunting self-portrait, her face fragmented into a collage of discordant parts. The eyes, wide and desperate, seemed to follow John as he studied the piece, a silent cry for help emanating from the canvas. John spent hours analyzing Sarah's art, trying to decipher the layers of meaning within each stroke. He knew that her work was a crucial part of her therapy, a means of externalizing her internal chaos. In her paintings, he saw not just despair, but also a profound depth of feeling and a remarkable ability to convey complex emotions. One piece in particular stood out to John. It was a large canvas covered in swirling shades of red and black, with sharp white lines cutting through the chaos like scars. At the center was a small, barely visible figure curled into a fetal position. The piece was titled Eruption, and it encapsulated Sarah's battle with her emotions, the constant eruption of feelings that she struggled to control. During one session, John asked Sarah about the inspiration behind Eruption. She was initially reluctant to share, but eventually, she opened up. "It's how I feel most of the time," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Like there's a storm inside me, and I can't make it stop." The figure in the middle, that's me trying to hold it all together. John nodded, understanding the significance of what she had shared. "It's a powerful piece, Sarah. It shows so much strength, even in the midst of the storm." Her eyes flickered with a mix of vulnerability and pride. For Sarah, art was not just a means of expression. It was a lifeline, a way to navigate the overwhelming waves of emotion that threatened to consume her. As their sessions progressed, John encouraged Sarah to explore different mediums and styles. He introduced her to the calming effects of watercolors and the grounding nature of sculpting. Sarah was initially hesitant, but she gradually embraced the new forms of art, discovering new ways to channel her feelings. One day, she brought in a sculpture she had been working on in her spare time. It was a delicate figure of a woman, her body twisted in a dance, her face turned upward in a gesture of hope. The piece was titled Resilience, and it marked a significant shift in Sarah's artistic journey. For the first time, her work was not just about the pain, but also about the strength and hope that lay within her. John was deeply moved by the sculpture. "This is incredible, Sarah. It's a beautiful representation of your journey." Sarah smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "I'm starting to see that maybe there's more to me than just the chaos. Maybe there's a part of me that can heal, that can find peace." Through her art, Sarah was beginning to forge a new narrative for herself. Her work still carried the raw intensity of her emotions, but it also reflected a growing sense of self-awareness and hope. John watched with a mixture of pride and admiration as Sarah's art evolved, each piece a testament to her resilience and her journey toward healing. In the sanctuary of the clinic, amidst the paints and canvases, Sarah Mitchell was not just creating art. She was reclaiming her life, one stroke at a time. And in the process, she was teaching John about the transformative power of creativity and the boundless strength of the human spirit. As the weeks turned into months, the bond between John Harris and Sarah Mitchell began to deepen. What had started as a professional relationship rooted in therapy gradually evolved into something more profound. Through the medium of art, they forged a connection that transcended the walls of the clinic and touched the very core of their beings. John's empathetic nature and unwavering patience were the pillars on which this connection was built. He didn't just see Sarah as a patient. He saw her as a complex individual with a unique story and a wealth of untapped potential. His genuine interest in her well-being and his respect for her artistic talent created a safe space where Sarah felt valued and understood. Sarah, for her part, began to lower her defenses. The clinic, which had initially felt like a prison, now seemed like a sanctuary. In John, she found someone who didn't judge her for her outbursts or dismiss her feelings. He listened, truly listened, to the words she couldn't always speak and the emotions she poured into her art. Their sessions became a haven of trust and mutual respect. John would often share his own experiences with loss and healing, creating a bridge of empathy that resonated deeply with Sarah. She realized that he wasn't just a therapist. He was a fellow traveler on the path to healing, someone who understood the weight of carrying emotional scars. One rainy afternoon, Sarah brought in a new painting, different from anything she had created before. It was a serene landscape, with soft, muted colors and a sense of tranquility that stood in stark contrast to her earlier works. As John studied the painting, he felt a sense of calm wash over him, a rare moment of peace in the often chaotic clinic. "This is beautiful, Sarah," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "It feels so peaceful." Sarah nodded, her eyes reflecting a mixture of pride and vulnerability. "I wanted to create something that felt safe, a place where I can go when things get too overwhelming." John smiled, deeply moved by her words. "You've captured that perfectly. It's a testament to your strength and your journey." In that moment, the connection between them grew even stronger. They weren't just therapist and patient. They were two souls finding solace and strength in each other's presence. John realized that his work with Sarah was more than just a job. It was a calling, a mission to help her uncover the beauty and resilience within herself. Sarah, too, began to see John in a new light. He was more than just a guide. He was a mentor, a confidant, and a friend. Their conversations extended beyond the confines of art therapy, delving into their hopes, fears, and dreams. Through these shared moments, Sarah started to believe in the possibility of a future where she could thrive, not just survive. One evening, after a particularly intense session, Sarah hesitated at the door. "John, I just wanted to say thank you for everything." John looked at her, his heart full of compassion and pride. "You're doing all the hard work, Sarah. I'm just here to support you." She smiled, a genuine smile that spoke of hope and gratitude. "I couldn't do it without you." As Sarah walked out into the fading light of dusk, John felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The emotional connection they had built was a testament to the power of empathy, patience, and the transformative potential of art. In helping Sarah find her voice and heal her wounds, John, too, found a renewed sense of purpose and hope. Their journey was far from over, but with each passing day, the bond they shared grew stronger, lighting the way forward through the darkness. In the heart of the clinic, amidst the colors and canvases, John and Sarah discovered the true meaning of healing. It was not just about mending the broken pieces, but about creating something beautiful and whole from the fragments of the past. Emily Harris had always been a quiet presence in John's life, her anxiety making her cautious around new people. The arrival of Sarah Mitchell at the clinic introduced a new dynamic that neither John nor Emily had anticipated. Sarah's fiery spirit and tumultuous emotions contrasted sharply with Emily's reserved nature, creating a fascinating interplay between the two. At first, Emily was wary of Sarah. She had heard John talk about his challenging new patient and had seen glimpses of Sarah's intense artwork hanging in his office. The chaos and raw emotion in those pieces intimidated her. She wasn't sure how to approach someone who seemed to carry a storm inside them. One afternoon, Emily decided to visit John at the clinic after her therapy session. She entered his office to find Sarah there, sitting at the desk, her head bowed over a sketchpad. John greeted Emily with a warm smile, his eyes flicking to Sarah, who looked up briefly before returning to her drawing. "Emily, this is Sarah." John introduced them gently. "Sarah, this is my sister, Emily." Emily offered a tentative smile, her anxiety bubbling just below the surface. "Hi, Sarah." Sarah looked up again, her eyes sharp and curious. "Hi," she replied, her voice guarded. John sensed the tension and decided to involve Emily in their session. "Emily, why don't you join us? We're working on a new project today." Emily hesitated but nodded, taking a seat beside Sarah. John handed her a sketchpad and some pencils, encouraging her to draw whatever came to mind. The room fell into a comfortable silence, the only sounds the soft scratching of pencils on paper. As they worked side by side, Emily began to relax. She glanced at Sarah's drawing, a hauntingly beautiful portrait of a woman's face, half hidden in shadows. Emily was captivated by the depth of emotion in Sarah's work and felt a sudden urge to understand her better. "That's really good," Emily said quietly, breaking the silence. Sarah looked at her, surprise flickering in her eyes. "Thanks. I've been working on it for a while." Encouraged by Sarah's response, Emily continued, "I like how you use shadows. It makes the picture feel alive." A small smile tugged at the corners of Sarah's mouth. "It helps me express things I can't say out loud." Emily nodded, understanding more than Sarah realized. "I get that. Drawing helps me deal with my anxiety. It's like a way to control the chaos." For the first time, Sarah saw a kindred spirit in Emily. Despite their differences, they shared a common bond through art. Over the next few weeks, the two began to form an unlikely friendship. They often found themselves in John's office, drawing together in companionable silence or discussing their latest projects. Sarah's presence had a positive impact on Emily. Watching Sarah confront her own demons with such raw honesty inspired Emily to be braver in facing her own struggles. She started to open up more in her therapy sessions, finding new ways to manage her anxiety. Sarah, in turn, found solace in Emily's calm and steady demeanor. Emily's quiet strength became a source of support for Sarah, helping her navigate the turbulent waters of her emotions. John observed this budding friendship with a mixture of pride and relief. He had always worried about Emily's isolation, fearing that her anxiety would keep her from forming meaningful connections. Seeing her bond with Sarah reassured him that she was finding her way. One day, Emily brought a new drawing to the clinic, eager to show both John and Sarah. It was a vibrant piece, filled with bright colors and flowing lines, a stark contrast to her usual subdued style. As she unveiled it, Sarah and John exchanged a look of admiration and surprise. "Emily, this is amazing," Sarah said, genuinely impressed. "It's so full of life." Emily beamed, her cheeks flushing with pride. "I wanted to try something different. I think I'm starting to feel more hopeful." John placed a hand on Emily's shoulder, his eyes shining with gratitude. "You've both come so far. I'm so proud of you." In the heart of the clinic, amidst the colors and canvases, Emily and Sarah found not only a friendship but also a new sense of purpose. Their connection brought out the best in each other, reminding them that even in the midst of their struggles, there was always room for hope and healing. John Harris had always been the rock for his sister Emily and his patients at the clinic, but beneath his calm exterior, he harbored a deep well of pain and guilt. The tragic accident that claimed the lives of his parents had left scars that he had never fully confronted. He had immersed himself in helping others, using their healing as a way to avoid his own unresolved grief. One rainy evening, after a particularly intense session with Sarah, John found himself alone in his office, staring at a photograph of his parents. The memories flooded back, their laughter, their warmth, and the horrific night that had shattered their family. He realized that while he had been so focused on helping others navigate their pain, he had neglected his own. The next morning, John decided to take a bold step. He arranged for a session with Dr. Miller, a senior therapist at the clinic who had always been a mentor to him. Sitting in the familiar chair usually occupied by his patients, John felt vulnerable and exposed. Dr. Miller greeted him with a knowing smile, sensing the significance of this moment. "John, it's good to see you here. What's on your mind?" Dr. Miller asked gently. John took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly. "I've spent so much time helping others, but I think it's time I face my own demons. I need to talk about my parents." Dr. Miller nodded, encouraging John to continue. Over the next hour, John poured out his heart, recounting the events of that fateful night, the overwhelming grief, and the responsibility he felt towards Emily. He spoke of the guilt that had haunted him, guilt for surviving, for not being able to save them, and for the times he felt he hadn't done enough for Emily. Dr. Miller listened attentively, providing a safe space for John to express his long-suppressed emotions. "John, it's clear that you've carried a heavy burden for a long time. It's important to acknowledge that your feelings are valid, and it's okay to seek help for yourself. As the session progressed, John began to understand that healing wasn't just about helping others, but also about allowing himself to grieve. Dr. Miller guided him through techniques to cope with his guilt and encouraged him to integrate his love for art into his own healing process. Inspired by their conversation, John decided to create a series of paintings dedicated to his parents. He spent nights in his studio, channeling his emotions into his art. The process was cathartic, each stroke of the brush a release of pent-up grief and a step towards acceptance. The first painting he completed was a serene landscape, reminiscent of the family vacations they used to take. As he worked on it, memories of happier times surfaced, bringing both tears and smiles. John realized that while his parents were gone, their love and the lessons they taught him remained a part of who he was. Emily noticed the change in her brother. He seemed lighter, more open, and willing to share his feelings. One evening, she joined him in the studio, curious about the new paintings. "John, these are beautiful," she said, her voice filled with admiration. "They remind me of Mom and Dad." John nodded, his eyes moist with unshed tears. "They're a way for me to remember them and to heal. I've been avoiding my own pain for too long." Emily hugged him, her own eyes welling up. "I'm glad you're doing this. We can heal together." Their conversation marked a turning point in their relationship. They began to share more about their memories and their grief, supporting each other in ways they hadn't before. For Emily, seeing John confront his past gave her the strength to face her own anxieties more openly. In his sessions with Sarah, John became even more empathetic, drawing from his own experiences to help her navigate her emotions. He shared parts of his journey with her, showing that even those who seem strong have their own battles to fight. One day, Sarah brought a painting to their session, a vibrant piece filled with light and hope. She had titled it New Beginnings. John smiled, recognizing the significance of her work. "This is incredible, Sarah. It shows how far you've come," he said, feeling a deep sense of pride. Sarah looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without your help, John. You've taught me that healing is possible, even for someone like me." In the heart of the clinic, amidst the colors and canvases, John Harris found that confronting the past was not a solitary journey. It was a path paved with vulnerability, connection, and the unwavering belief in the power of healing. Through his own struggles and triumphs, he discovered that true strength lay not in avoiding pain, but in facing it head-on and emerging stronger on the other side. Sarah Mitchell's journey through therapy was anything but linear. Her battle with borderline personality disorder meant that every day was a new challenge, filled with emotional highs and crushing lows. The intensity of her feelings often overwhelmed her, leaving her teetering on the edge of despair. For Sarah, each step forward was hard-fought, and setbacks were a constant threat. One morning, Sarah arrived at the clinic visibly distraught. Her usual defiance was replaced with a fragile vulnerability. John could see the turmoil in her eyes, the signs of a sleepless night etched on her face. "Sarah, what's going on?" he asked gently, leading her to a chair. She sank into it, her hands trembling as she clutched her sketch pad. "I had a fight with my mother," she whispered, her voice raw with emotion. "She said things that made me feel like I'm a burden." John's heart ached for her. He knew that Sarah's relationship with her mother was fraught with tension, often exacerbating her condition. "I'm sorry to hear that. Do you want to talk about what happened?" Sarah nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. She began to recount the argument, her voice wavering as she described the hurtful words and the familiar feelings of rejection. As she spoke, John listened intently, providing a safe space for her to express her pain. "I feel like no matter what I do, it's never enough," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "I try so hard to be better, but it's like I'm always failing." John reached out, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Sarah, your worth isn't determined by anyone else's opinion. You are working so hard, and I see your progress every day. It's okay to have setbacks. It doesn't erase all the strides you've made." She looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mix of despair and hope. Sometimes it just feels like too much, like I'm drowning and there's no way out. John nodded, understanding the depth of her struggle. Let's focus on what we can control right now. How about we use your art to express these feelings? Sarah hesitated, then slowly opened her sketchpad. She picked up a piece of charcoal and began to draw, her movements deliberate and intense. John watched as a scene took shape, a figure standing on the edge of a cliff, with a turbulent sea below. The figure's face was turned upwards, eyes closed, as if bracing against the storm. "It's how I feel," Sarah explained softly, "like I'm always on the edge, trying to hold on." John admired her ability to convey such complex emotions through her art. "This is powerful, Sarah. It captures your struggle so vividly." They spent the rest of the session in companionable silence, Sarah drawing and John providing quiet support. By the end, Sarah seemed calmer, the act of creating giving her a sense of release. But the battles didn't end there. Over the following weeks, Sarah continued to face moments of intense emotional turmoil. Some days, she arrived at the clinic filled with anger, lashing out at John and the staff. Other days, she was withdrawn, unable to muster the energy to engage. Each session was a testament to her resilience and John's unwavering support. One particularly difficult day, Sarah had a severe emotional outburst. She threw her sketchpad across the room, the pages scattering like fallen leaves. "I can't do this anymore," she screamed, her voice echoing through the clinic. John approached her cautiously, his heart aching for her pain. "Sarah, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. We're here to help you through this." She sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so tired of fighting," she whispered, her voice filled with exhaustion. John sat beside her, his presence a steadying force. "You don't have to fight alone. We're in this together. Remember, you've made it through tough times before, and you'll get through this too." In those moments of despair, John's belief in Sarah never wavered. He knew that healing was a journey, often with more setbacks than triumphs. But he also knew that Sarah's strength lay in her ability to confront her struggles, no matter how daunting they seemed. Slowly, with John's guidance and her own determination, Sarah began to find a semblance of stability. Her art became a refuge, a way to navigate the storm of her emotions. Through each struggle, she discovered new facets of her strength, realizing that her journey, though fraught with challenges, was also filled with moments of profound growth and resilience. In the sanctuary of the clinic, amidst the art supplies and the quiet hum of creativity, Sarah Mitchell continued to fight her battles. And with each passing day, she moved closer to a place of healing, supported by the unwavering faith of John Harris and the transformative power of her own art. Sarah Mitchell's journey through therapy was a testament to the transformative power of art and human connection. As she continued to grapple with her borderline personality disorder, moments of clarity and growth began to emerge. One pivotal session with John Harris marked a significant turning point in her outlook on life. It was a crisp autumn day, the sunlight streaming through the windows of John's office, casting warm, golden hues on the walls. Sarah arrived, her demeanor unusually calm. She carried a canvas, carefully wrapped, and set it down gently before taking a seat. John noticed a subtle change in her, a quiet determination that hadn't been there before. "I've been working on something," Sarah said, her voice steady. "I wanted to show you." John nodded, his curiosity piqued. "I'd love to see it." Sarah unwrapped the canvas, revealing a stunning painting that took John's breath away. It depicted a lush, vibrant forest, bathed in the soft light of dawn. At the center of the scene stood a lone tree, its branches reaching skyward, adorned with delicate blossoms. The colors were vivid and alive, a stark contrast to the darker tones of her earlier works. "This is incredible, Sarah," John said, genuinely moved. "It's so full of life and hope. What inspired you to create this?" Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes reflecting a mix of emotions. "I've been thinking a lot about our sessions and the things we've talked about. For so long, I've seen the world through a lens of pain and despair. But I realized that there's another side to it. There's beauty and growth, even in the midst of struggle. She pointed to the tree in the center. This tree represents me. It's been through storms and harsh winters, but it still stands tall. It's still growing, still blossoming. John felt a surge of pride and admiration. You've captured something truly profound here, Sarah. It's a beautiful representation of resilience and hope. Sarah nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. I've spent so much time focused on the darkness inside me that I forgot to look for the light. But I'm starting to see it now. I'm starting to believe that I can have a future that isn't defined by my past. In the weeks that followed, Sarah's new perspective began to influence all aspects of her life. She approached her therapy sessions with renewed vigor, eager to explore new techniques and strategies for managing her emotions. John introduced her to mindfulness practices, which helped her stay grounded during moments of intense emotion. One day, during a particularly reflective session, Sarah shared a memory that had haunted her for years. When I was a child, I used to visit my grandmother's garden. It was my safe place. No matter how chaotic things were at home, the garden was always peaceful. I used to sit under this huge oak tree and just breathe. John listened intently, sensing the significance of this memory. It sounds like that garden was a sanctuary for you, a place where you felt safe and at peace. Sarah nodded. I realized that I've been trying to find that feeling again, that sense of peace and safety. And through my art, I think I'm starting to find it. Inspired by this revelation, John suggested a new project, creating a series of paintings based on her grandmother's garden. Sarah embraced the idea, immersing herself in the project with a passion and focus that surprised even her. Each painting became a meditation, a way to reconnect with that sense of sanctuary she had once known. As the series took shape, Sarah's confidence grew. She began to see herself not as a victim of her past, but as an artist and a survivor. Her work reflected a balance of light and shadow, capturing the complexities of her journey and the beauty that could emerge from it. The clinic staff and other patients took notice of Sarah's transformation. Her artwork became a source of inspiration, a testament to the power of creativity and resilience. Sarah even started to mentor some of the newer patients, sharing her experiences and offering encouragement. One day, as Sarah and John walked through the clinic's small garden, she turned to him with a thoughtful expression. John, do you think it's possible to truly leave the past behind? To start over? John smiled, his eyes reflecting the wisdom of his own journey. I think the past will always be a part of us, but it doesn't have to define us. We can choose how we move forward, and we can find new beginnings, even in the face of our struggles. Sarah nodded, feeling the truth of his words. I'm starting to believe that. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I have a future worth looking forward to. In the golden light of the autumn afternoon, surrounded by the beauty of nature and the promise of new beginnings, Sarah Mitchell found a new perspective on life. It was a perspective born of pain and struggle, but also of hope and resilience. And with each step forward, she carried with her the knowledge that she was not alone on this journey, that she had the strength to grow, to heal, and to blossom. John Harris had always been the pillar of strength for those around him. His dedication to his work, his unwavering support for his sister Emily, and his commitment to his patients defined him. Yet, in his relentless pursuit of helping others, John often neglected his own needs and well-being. It was a sacrifice he was willing to make, but one that slowly began to take its toll. As the demands of his job at the clinic grew, so did the weight on John's shoulders. He found himself staying late into the night, working on treatment plans and preparing for sessions. He poured his heart and soul into his patients, especially Sarah, whose progress he was deeply invested in. But this intense focus left little time for himself, and he began to feel the strain. Emily noticed the changes first. Her brother, once full of energy and warmth, seemed worn out and distant. She saw the dark circles under his eyes, the way he sometimes stared blankly at his sketchpad, lost in thoughts he never shared. Emily's concern grew, but John, ever the caretaker, brushed off her worries, insisting that he was fine. One evening, after an especially grueling day, John returned home to find Emily waiting for him. Her eyes were filled with worry, and she held a mug of chamomile tea, his favorite. "John, we need to talk," she said softly, guiding him to the couch. John sighed, taking the mug from her. "What is it, Emily? You've been pushing yourself too hard. I see how tired you are, how much you're carrying. You need to take care of yourself too," she urged, her voice tinged with concern. John forced a smile, trying to reassure her. "I'm just busy, Emily. There's a lot going on at the clinic." Emily shook her head, her eyes brimming with tears. "It's more than that, John. You're burning out. You can't help anyone if you don't take care of yourself." Her words hit home, and John felt a pang of guilt. He knew she was right, but admitting it felt like a betrayal of his responsibilities. "I can't just stop, Emily. There are people who need me. And we need you too," Emily said, her voice breaking. "I need my brother, not just the therapist who saves everyone else." John sat in silence, the weight of her words sinking in. He realized that his sacrifice, though noble, was costing him more than he had anticipated. It was a sobering moment, one that forced him to confront the reality of his own limits. The next day, John made a difficult decision. He approached Dr. Miller, his mentor, and requested a temporary leave of absence. Dr. Miller, who had seen the signs of John's exhaustion, readily agreed. "You've been an incredible asset to this clinic, John, but you're no good to anyone if you're running on empty. Take the time you need to recharge." With a heavy heart, John informed his patients of his decision. Sarah took the news the hardest. "You're leaving?" she asked, her voice filled with disbelief. "It's just for a while, Sarah," John reassured her. "I need to take care of myself so that I can be here for you and everyone else in the long run." Sarah's eyes softened with understanding. "I get it, John. Just promise you'll come back." John smiled, feeling a surge of affection for the young woman who had come so far. "I promise." During his time off, John focused on his own healing. He spent more time with Emily, reconnecting with the sister who had always been his anchor. They took long walks, talked about their parents, and shared memories that had been buried under the weight of responsibility. John also returned to his own art, creating pieces that reflected his journey of self-discovery and renewal. One evening, as he and Emily sat on the porch, watching the sunset, John felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in years. "Thank you, Emily," he said, his voice filled with gratitude, "for making me see what I was missing." Emily smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "We all need a break sometimes, John. You've given so much to others. It's okay to take time for yourself." When John returned to the clinic, he was greeted with warmth and relief. His patients, who had missed his presence, welcomed him back with open hearts. Sarah, in particular, was eager to show him the progress she had made in his absence. "I've been working on a new series," she said, her eyes shining with excitement. "I can't wait to show you." John felt a renewed sense of purpose, his heart lightened by the knowledge that taking care of himself had not only helped him, but had also allowed him to be a better support for those he cared about. His sacrifice, though challenging, had led to a deeper understanding of balance and self-care. In the months that followed, John continued to dedicate himself to his work, but with a new perspective. He learned to set boundaries, to recognize his own needs, and to value his well-being as much as he valued the well-being of his patients. His journey taught him that true strength lay not in endless sacrifice, but in the ability to nurture oneself while nurturing others. And so, in the heart of the clinic, amidst the colors and canvases, John Harris found a new way to serve, one that honored both his compassion for others and his commitment to his own health and happiness. Emily Harris had always struggled with anxiety, the shadows of her past casting long and ominous figures over her daily life. But the changes she witnessed in her brother John had a profound impact on her. His decision to take a break and focus on self-care opened her eyes to the possibilities of her own healing. Inspired by his courage and determination, Emily decided to confront her anxiety head-on. Her first step was to be more open with her therapist, Dr. Ramirez. For years, Emily had attended therapy sessions, but she often held back, afraid to delve too deeply into her fears. Now, with a newfound resolve, she began to share more about her experiences and emotions. "Dr. Ramirez, I want to be honest with you," Emily said during one of their sessions. "I've been avoiding my anxiety because it's so overwhelming, but I'm ready to face it now." Dr. Ramirez smiled warmly, sensing the shift in Emily's attitude. "That's a brave step, Emily. Let's work through this together." They started by identifying her triggers and developing coping strategies. Emily learned breathing exercises and grounding techniques to help her manage panic attacks. She also began journaling her thoughts and feelings, a practice that allowed her to track her progress and understand her patterns. One of the biggest breakthroughs came when Emily decided to revisit a place she had long avoided: the site of the car accident that took their parents. It was a daunting task, but Emily knew it was a crucial part of her healing process. She asked John to come with her, needing his support. On a bright, clear morning, they drove to the location. The memories flooded back, but Emily took deep breaths, grounding herself as she had practiced. John stood by her side, offering silent encouragement. As they approached the spot, Emily's heart pounded in her chest, but she kept moving forward. She knelt down, placing a small bouquet of flowers on the ground. "Mom, Dad, I miss you so much," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I'm trying to be strong, like you would want me to be." John knelt beside her, his arm around her shoulders. "They would be so proud of you, Emily. You've come so far." In that moment, Emily felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She realized that confronting her fear, rather than avoiding it, gave her a sense of control she hadn't felt in years. It was a powerful moment of release and acceptance. Back at the clinic, Emily continued to make strides. She started participating in group therapy sessions, sharing her story and listening to others. The mutual support within the group provided a sense of community and understanding that was incredibly healing. Emily also threw herself into her art with renewed passion. Inspired by Sarah's journey and the bond they had formed, she began creating pieces that expressed her emotions in vibrant colors and bold strokes. Her artwork became a testament to her resilience and growth. One afternoon, as Emily worked on a particularly intricate piece, Sarah entered the room. She watched in silence for a few moments before speaking. "That's beautiful, Emily. You've really captured something special." Emily looked up, a smile spreading across her face. "Thanks, Sarah. It feels good to express myself this way. It helps me process everything." Sarah nodded, understanding completely. "Art has been a lifeline for me too. I'm glad we have this." Their friendship blossomed, each supporting the other through their respective journeys. They often worked side by side in John's office, their silent companionship a source of comfort and inspiration. John, watching his sister's progress, felt a deep sense of pride and relief. Emily was no longer defined by her anxiety. She was reclaiming her life one step at a time. Her courage and determination inspired him daily, reminding him of the power of resilience and the importance of facing one's fears. One evening, as they sat together on the porch, Emily turned to John with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking about what you said, about moving forward but not forgetting the past. I think I'm starting to understand that better now." John smiled, his heart full. "You've done incredible work, Emily. I'm so proud of you." Emily nodded, her eyes shining with a mix of emotions. "I couldn't have done it without you, John. You've always been there for me, even when things were tough." In the golden light of the setting sun, surrounded by the warmth of family and the promise of new beginnings, Emily Harris found a sense of peace she had long sought. Her progress was a testament to her strength and the unbreakable bond she shared with her brother. Together, they faced their past, embraced their present, and looked forward to a future filled with hope and possibility. In the sanctum of the clinic, where creativity and therapy intertwined, moments of vulnerability were inevitable. For John, Sarah, and Emily, these moments were the crucibles in which their true selves were revealed and their most profound healing occurred. One crisp winter evening, Sarah sat in John's office, the faint hum of the heater creating a cocoon of warmth. She had been unusually quiet during their session, her eyes distant as she worked on a delicate charcoal sketch. John sensed the storm brewing within her and decided to gently probe. "Sarah, you seem preoccupied today. Is there something on your mind?" he asked softly. Sarah paused, her hand hovering over the paper. She looked up, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "It's just the holidays. They're hard for me." John nodded, understanding the weight of her words. The holidays often brought memories and emotions to the surface, magnifying feelings of loneliness and loss. "Do you want to talk about it?" Sarah took a deep breath, her shoulders sagging with the effort. "My family, we were never close. The holidays always felt like a reminder of what I didn't have. It's hard to see everyone else so happy when I feel so empty." John leaned forward, his voice gentle and reassuring. "It's okay to feel that way, Sarah. You don't have to face these feelings alone. We're here to support you." Her tears began to fall, silent and steady. "I just wish I could feel normal, like everyone else." In that moment, John felt a deep connection with Sarah's pain. He reached out, his hand covering hers. "Normal is different for everyone. What matters is that you're honest about how you feel and that you allow yourself to heal at your own pace." As Sarah's tears flowed, John stayed with her, providing a steady presence in the midst of her emotional storm. It was a moment of raw vulnerability, a testament to her courage and his unwavering support. Meanwhile, Emily experienced her own moments of vulnerability, often when she least expected them. One afternoon, she was in the clinic's art room, working on a new piece. She had been feeling more confident lately, but that day, anxiety gnawed at her insides, making it hard to focus. Sarah noticed Emily's distress and approached her. "Hey, you okay?" Emily shook her head, her hands trembling slightly. "I don't know. I feel like I'm failing. Like no matter how hard I try, it's never enough." Sarah's heart ached for her friend. She sat down beside Emily, her voice soft. "I know that feeling all too well, but you're not failing, Emily. You're here, you're trying, and that's what matters." Emily looked up, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "But what if I never get better?" Sarah took her hand, squeezing it gently. "We all have setbacks, but that doesn't mean we won't get better. It just means we're human, and we're in this together." In that shared moment of vulnerability, Emily found solace in Sarah's words. The bond between them deepened, a silent promise that they would support each other through their darkest times. John, too, had his moments of vulnerability, though he often tried to hide them. One evening, after a long day at the clinic, he sat alone in his office, the weight of his responsibilities pressing down on him. He looked at the photographs on his desk, his parents, Emily, and the countless patients whose lives he had touched. The familiar ache of loss and the relentless pressure of being everyone's pillar of strength overwhelmed him. For a moment, he allowed himself to feel the full extent of his emotions. The tears came, unbidden and unstoppable, a release of the pent-up grief and exhaustion he carried. Emily, who had come to check on him, found him there, vulnerable and human. She quietly entered the room, wrapping her arms around him. "It's okay, John. You don't always have to be strong. It's okay to let go." In her embrace, John found the comfort he so often provided to others. It was a rare moment of vulnerability that reminded him of the importance of self-care and the strength that comes from allowing oneself to feel and heal. Through these moments of vulnerability, John, Sarah, and Emily discovered the true essence of their journeys. It wasn't just about overcoming their struggles, but about embracing their humanity, acknowledging their pain, and finding strength in their connections with each other. In the heart of the clinic, amidst the colors and canvases, these moments of vulnerability became the foundation of their healing. They learned that it was okay to be vulnerable, to lean on each other, and to find beauty and strength in their shared humanity. And in doing so, they forged a bond that would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead, united by their courage and their unwavering belief in the power of hope and connection. In the heart of the psychiatric clinic, amidst the therapeutic sessions and creative endeavors, an unexpected family began to form. John, Emily and Sarah, each with their own struggles and past traumas, found solace and strength in their growing bond. It was a cold winter morning when Sarah decided to bring a small, scraggly Christmas tree to the clinic. She had found it discarded on the side of the road, its branches sparse but still full of potential. With a mischievous grin, she dragged it into John's office. "Look what I found," Sarah exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. John glanced up from his desk, a smile spreading across his face. "It's perfect, Sarah." Emily, who had been quietly reading in the corner, looked up and laughed. "It's a bit unconventional, but I love it." They decided to decorate the tree together, each bringing their own unique flair. John provided the art supplies, paint, glitter, and handmade ornaments. Emily crafted delicate paper stars, carefully folding and creasing each one. Sarah, ever the artist, painted the tree's branches with vibrant colors, turning it into a kaleidoscope of creativity. As they worked, they shared stories and laughter, the room filling with warmth and camaraderie. For the first time in a long while, the holiday season didn't feel like a burden to Sarah. It felt like a celebration, a moment of joy shared with people who had become her family. One evening, as the snow fell softly outside, they gathered around the tree, its colorful branches glowing in the dim light. John, sensing the significance of the moment, decided to share a tradition from his own childhood. "When I was a kid, my parents and I used to sit around the tree and tell each other what we were grateful for," he said, his voice filled with nostalgia. "It helped us remember what truly mattered." Sarah and Emily nodded, their faces reflecting a mix of anticipation and gratitude. John went first. "I'm grateful for both of you, for your courage, your strength, and for reminding me every day why I do what I do." Emily smiled, her eyes shimmering. "I'm grateful for my brother, for always being there for me, and for Sarah, for showing me that we can find hope even in the darkest times." Sarah, her voice choked with emotion, took a deep breath. "I'm grateful for this clinic, for John and Emily, and for the chance to rebuild my life. You've given me more than just support. You've given me a family." As they sat together, the room filled with a profound sense of connection. In each other, they had found the love and support that had been missing for so long. They had become an unexpected family, bound not by blood, but by shared experiences and mutual respect. Over the following months, their bond only deepened. They celebrated birthdays and milestones, each event a testament to their resilience and the strength of their new family. They faced challenges together, supporting one another through setbacks and triumphs alike. One particularly memorable day, Sarah brought in a painting she had been working on for weeks. It was a portrait of the three of them, standing together under a brilliant sky, their faces radiating hope and happiness. "I wanted to capture what you both mean to me," Sarah explained, her eyes filled with emotion. "This is my way of saying thank you." John and Emily were deeply moved, their hearts full of pride and love. The painting became a symbol of their journey, a reminder of how far they had come and the strength they had found in each other. As spring approached, they decided to plant a garden in the clinic's courtyard. It became a collaborative project, each of them contributing their own ideas and labor. The garden flourished, a vibrant mix of flowers and plants that reflected their unique personalities and shared dreams. One sunny afternoon, as they worked in the garden, John paused to look at Emily and Sarah. He saw the transformation in both of them, the confidence in Emily's eyes, the joy in Sarah's smile. It was a moment of pure contentment, a realization that their journey, though difficult, had led to something beautiful and lasting. "We've come a long way," John said, his voice filled with pride. Emily nodded, her hands dirty from planting. "And we've done it together." Sarah looked up, her face beaming. "Here's to many more seasons." In the heart of the clinic, amidst the blooming flowers and shared dreams, John, Emily, and Sarah had found their unexpected family. Their bond was a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the healing that comes from truly connecting with others. It was a reminder that family is not just about where you come from, but also about who you choose to share your life with. In the serene embrace of spring, the psychiatric clinic's garden flourished, much like the lives of those who found solace within its walls. John, Emily, and Sarah had formed an unbreakable bond, navigating their respective journeys with newfound strength and hope. But life, unpredictable and relentless, often brings unexpected challenges that test even the strongest of ties. One sunny afternoon, as John prepared for his sessions, he received a call that would shake their world. It was from Sarah's mother, Mrs. Mitchell, a woman with whom Sarah had a tumultuous relationship. Her voice was strained, filled with an urgency that immediately set John on edge. "John, I need to speak with you about Sarah," Mrs. Mitchell said, her words clipped and anxious. "Of course," John replied, his heart pounding. "What's happened?" There was a brief pause before she spoke again, her voice trembling. "Sarah's father is critically ill. He's in the hospital, and the doctors aren't sure if he'll make it." John felt a surge of concern for Sarah. Her father had been a distant figure in her life, but the news was bound to stir deep and complicated emotions. "I'll tell her, Mrs. Mitchell. Thank you for letting me know." After hanging up, John took a moment to gather his thoughts. He knew this would be a pivotal moment for Sarah, one that could either propel her forward in her healing journey or pull her back into the darkness she had worked so hard to escape. When Sarah arrived for her session, John gently broke the news. Her reaction was immediate: shock, followed by a flood of emotions that she struggled to contain. He's dying?" she whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. John nodded, his voice soft. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I know this is a lot to take in." Sarah's initial reaction was to retreat into herself, her defenses rising. "I don't even know if I want to see him," she admitted, her voice cracking. "He was never there for me. Why should I be there for him now?" John listened, understanding the conflict raging within her. "It's okay to feel that way, Sarah. You don't have to make any decisions right now. Just take a moment to breathe and process this." Over the next few days, Sarah grappled with her feelings, torn between anger and a lingering sense of duty. She confided in Emily, who provided a steadying presence and shared her own experiences of loss and forgiveness. "Sometimes, we need to confront our past to move forward," Emily said gently. "It's not about him. It's about you finding peace." Sarah decided to visit her father, accompanied by John for support. As they entered the hospital, the sterile smell and beeping machines heightened her anxiety. Her father lay in the bed, looking frail and vulnerable, a stark contrast to the distant figure she remembered. Mrs. Mitchell was there, her eyes red from crying. She looked up as Sarah entered, a flicker of hope in her gaze. "Sarah, thank you for coming." Sarah approached the bed cautiously, her emotions a tangled web. Her father's eyes opened slowly, and when he saw her, a weak smile crossed his lips. "Sarah," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I'm so sorry for everything." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes, the years of hurt and longing bubbling to the surface. "Why now?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Why couldn't you be there when I needed you?" Her father's eyes filled with tears. "I was a fool, Sarah. I thought I was protecting you by staying away. But I see now that I was wrong. I'm so sorry." In that moment, Sarah felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Anger, sadness, but also a flicker of understanding. She realized that holding onto her anger would only continue to hurt her. With John's silent support beside her, she took a deep breath and made a decision. "I forgive you," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I don't want to carry this pain anymore." Her father's eyes softened with relief. "Thank you, Sarah. That means more to me than you'll ever know." As they left the hospital, Sarah felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She had faced her past and chosen forgiveness, not for her father's sake, but for her own peace. It was a turning point, a moment that signified her growth and strength. Back at the clinic, Sarah threw herself into her art with renewed passion. She created a series of paintings that depicted her journey, raw, honest, and filled with the beauty of her newfound freedom. Each piece was a testament to her resilience and the transformative power of forgiveness. John and Emily watched with pride as Sarah flourished, her light shining brighter than ever. Their bond, tested by this great turning point, emerged stronger, a beacon of hope and healing. In the heart of the clinic, amidst the colors and canvases, they continued their journey together, united by the challenges they had faced and the love that had grown between them. They had learned that true healing often comes from confronting the past and choosing a future filled with hope and forgiveness. And in doing so, they discovered that their greatest strength lay in their unwavering support for one another. The journey of healing is rarely straightforward, but for John, Emily, and Sarah, it had been a testament to resilience, hope, and the transformative power of art and connection. As the seasons changed, so did they, each finding their own unique paths to healing and renewal. John had spent years dedicating himself to others, often at the expense of his own well-being. But through his own moments of vulnerability and the support of those around him, he learned the importance of self-care and balance. His time off had been a period of reflection and growth, allowing him to return to the clinic with a renewed sense of purpose and energy. One sunny morning, John decided to introduce a new initiative at the clinic, a community art project that would involve not just the patients, but also their families and the local community. He envisioned a mural that would symbolize their collective journey of healing, a vibrant tapestry of stories and emotions. Gathering everyone in the courtyard, John shared his vision. This mural will be a representation of our shared experiences, our struggles, and our triumphs. It's a way for us to connect with each other and with the community. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Patients, staff, and community members eagerly joined in, each contributing their own piece to the mural. Emily and Sarah were at the forefront, their artistic talents and leadership inspiring others to participate. Emily's transformation had been remarkable. Her anxiety, once a debilitating force, had become something she could manage and understand. Through therapy, art, and the unwavering support of her brother and friends, she found a sense of peace and confidence. Emily's contributions to the mural were bright and hopeful, reflecting her journey from fear to empowerment. One afternoon, as they worked on the mural, Emily shared a poignant moment with Sarah. "You know, there was a time when I never thought I'd feel normal again, but being here with all of you has shown me that it's okay to be imperfect. We're all works in progress." Sarah nodded, her eyes reflecting the depth of her understanding. "We've all come a long way, haven't we? This mural, it's like a map of our journey." Sarah's path to healing had been the most turbulent, but also the most transformative. The confrontation with her father had been a turning point, allowing her to release years of pent-up anger and pain. Her art, always a raw reflection of her inner world, evolved into something even more profound. Her contributions to the mural were bold and vibrant, filled with symbols of growth and resilience. As the mural neared completion, a sense of accomplishment and unity settled over the clinic. It was more than just a piece of art. It was a testament to their collective journey, a visual representation of their struggles, growth, and hope for the future. One evening, as the sun set and cast a golden glow over the courtyard, they gathered for the mural's unveiling. John stood before the assembled group, his heart full as he looked at the faces of those who had become his family. "This mural is a testament to all of you," John began, his voice filled with emotion. "It's a symbol of our resilience, our ability to overcome, and the strength we find in each other. Thank you for being part of this journey." As the covering was removed, revealing the mural in its full glory, there was a collective gasp of awe. The mural was a breathtaking tapestry of colors and shapes, each section telling a different story, each piece a testament to the individuals who had contributed. For John, Emily, and Sarah, it was a moment of profound reflection. They stood together, their hands intertwined, gazing at the mural that represented so much of their journey. Emily looked at John and Sarah, her eyes shining with tears. "We did this together. We turned our pain into something beautiful." Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "This is just the beginning. We have so much more to create, so much more to discover." John felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that their paths to healing were intertwined, each step forward a collective triumph. We've shown that no matter how difficult the journey, there is always hope, and together we can create something extraordinary. As they stood before the mural, surrounded by friends and community members, they realized that their paths to healing were not just about overcoming their past, but about embracing the future with open hearts and minds. They had found strength in their vulnerability, beauty in their struggles, and a family in each other. In the heart of the clinic, amidst the colors and canvases, John, Emily, and Sarah continued their journey, knowing that their paths to healing were ongoing. They had created a legacy of hope and resilience, a reminder that healing is a journey best traveled together, and that through connection and creativity, they could overcome anything.